I mean, is it just because people are lazy today? Or are they bored? I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day just playing with their plastic duck and now they're thinking, well, what can I do?
Yes, okay, yes. Wally, we're bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing? Created by a world totalitarian government based on money? And that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks. Because it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but the fact that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who is asleep will not say no. See, I keep meeting these people, Wall. Like just the other day, I met this man who I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he feels that he has to turn off his television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's cut them completely out of his life because he feels that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert. He dedicated his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old, and he travels everywhere with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he says to me, he says, "Where are you from?" And I say, "New York." He says, "New York, it's a very interesting place. Do you meet a lot of New Yorkers that talk about the fact they want to leave and never do?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he says, "Well, why do you think they don't leave?" And I gave him several different banal theories, and he said, "No, I don't think it's that way at all." And then he says that he thinks New York is the new model for the new concentration camp. And the camp was built by the inmates themselves. And the inmates are the guards. And they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison. And so they exist in a state of schizophrenia where they are both guard and prisoner. And they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to ever leave this prison that they've made, or to even see it as a prison. And then he went into his pocket, and he took out a seed for a tree, and he said, "This is a pine tree." And then he put it in my hand, and he said, "Escape before it's too late." And see, well, Chiquita and I have had this overwhelming, unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. You know, we feel like we're Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Just get out of here. But of course the problem is where to go. Because it was, it seems quite obvious that the whole world is headed in the same direction. Now, I believe that the 1960s was the last burst of the human being. And that from now on, this is the beginning of the rest of the future, where there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. And soon there'll be nobody left to remember that there was ever a species called the human being, with feelings and thoughts. And right now, that history and memory are being erased. And soon no one will even remember that life existed on the planet. Now, of course, Bjornstrand, he feels that there's really almost no hope, and that we're headed back to a very savage, lawless, terrifying period.